Listen, I hope y'all WNBA players is paying attention. They will replace y'all asses. They have Caitlin Clark. They have Paige Beckers under contract. They have Angel Reese. They have replacement players they can go get. They have a slew of rookies they are about to draft.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching a power shift unfold in real time, and it is happening on the biggest stages in sports media. For the last 2 years, the WNBA self-appointed gatekeepers waged a relentless campaign of hostility toward Caitlin Clark, mixing cheap shots on the floor with smug lectures off it, all designed to slow her rise and protect their grip on relevance. They mocked the hype, questioned the talent, dismissed the fans, and assumed the system would always bend in their favor. They believed pressure would humble her, isolation would exhaust her, and time would dull the spotlight. They were wrong. Today the invoice has arrived, and the cost is total irrelevance. The decision makers have spoken. Network executives, owners, and sponsors have aligned behind a simple truth: attention is the currency, and Clark earns it.
WNBA, NBC, Peacock, they're pushing on and moving on with their promo, regardless if y'all signing this deal or not, because I'm pretty sure they got a contingency plan in place. They have a contingency plan.
The shift is official. The old guard has been bypassed, not out of spite, but out of necessity. While veteran voices posture through disputes and demands, Caitlin Clark is seated where influence lives, collaborating with icons, signing transformational partnerships, and becoming the most bankable presence in American basketball. This is not a fluke, and it is not charity. It is consequence. Markets reward what audiences love and punish what they reject. Toxic entitlement does not sell, resentment does not retain viewers, and gatekeeping does not grow leagues. Skill, humility, and electricity do. The campaign to contain her did not merely collapse, it detonated. In trying to block the future, they erased themselves from it. What we are seeing is not favoritism or conspiracy. It is a reset driven by demand. Future audiences chose Clark, decisively, without apology.
See, sports, what they did is, they flexed on him, okay? They flexed on him. Here it says, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. The WNBA is coming to NBC and Peacock. So,
WNBA, NBC, Peacock, they are moving forward whether the players sign off on it or not, because this deal was never built around approval from the locker room. It was built around leverage. Networks do not spend billions without contingency plans, and NBC's contingency plan is already visible in plain sight. They locked in the NBA, they attached the WNBA, and then they identified the one asset that actually converts attention into revenue. Historically, networks would roll out veterans, celebrate legacy careers, and sell nostalgia. That is how sports media used to work. But this time, none of that happened. Instead of calling the longest tenured players, NBC called Caitlin Clark. Instead of roundtables about league history, they gave her a seat at the table of current relevance. That was not accidental. It was a signal. Executives do not guess. They analyze. They studied rating spikes, search trends, merchandise demand, and fan behavior. They also studied the behavior that turned audiences off. The cheap fouls, the dismissive interviews, the resentment disguised as toughness. And they made a decision. They decided they were not going to sell bitterness. They were going to sell excitement. Clark represents efficiency. She represents points, visibility, and engagement. She attracts casual fans, young fans, and non-traditional viewers. That matters more than tenure. The veterans represent a closed ecosystem that demands loyalty without delivering growth. From a business perspective, that is dead weight. This is not personal. This is not emotional. This is economics. NBC does not exist to preserve feelings. It exists to preserve margins. When the WNBA Players Association started posturing about strikes and revenue splits, the owners already knew the math. Revenue is not guaranteed. It is earned. And most of it is being driven by one player. Subscription platforms are ruthless. They care about acquisition and retention. Who brings people in, and who keeps them paying? Not slogans. Not complaints. Not moral lectures. Performance. Personality. Magnetism. Peacock subscribers are not signing up to hear grievances. They are signing up to watch something special. So the owners adjusted. They realized they no longer needed to market the league as a collective product. They could market the star independently. By placing Clark on NBC broadcasts outside the WNBA season, they protected their investment. They insulated her from labor disputes, internal drama, and union leverage. If the season pauses, the exposure does not. That changes everything. The moment Clark became platform independent, the union lost its teeth. You cannot threaten the network when the network already owns the face of the league. That is why the reaction has been panic. Because power shifted quietly and decisively. The veterans thought they controlled access. They do not anymore. The pipeline now runs directly from Clark to the audience. No intermediaries. No gatekeepers. Just demand meeting supply. That is the reality they failed to anticipate.
Absolute abomination. Nike dropping the ball. Here it says Nike confirmed to Adweek it will not run a commercial during Super Bowl 60 this year, so there won't be a Nike X Caitlin Clark spot during the game. Listen, man, this don't make sense. Caitlin Clark's sneakers are about to drop.
The fallout from that miscalculation is brutal, and it is playing out in real time. Look at the marketing. Look at the promotions. The league is no longer the star. The star is the star. Everything else is background. That did not happen because Caitlin Clark asked for it. It happened because audiences forced it. When you spend a year telling fans that the player they came to see is overrated, entitled, or needs to wait her turn, you are not disciplining the audience. You are alienating it. Fans do not like being told what to enjoy. They vote with attention, wallets, and clicks. And they voted overwhelmingly. That is why the promotional material is Clark-centric. That is why the spotlight follows her. The veterans did not lose visibility because of conspiracy. They lost it because they failed the moment. Instead of embracing growth, they tried to control it. Instead of mentoring, they resisted. Instead of capitalizing on momentum, they smothered it. And the psychological impact of watching that backfire cannot be overstated. Imagine dedicating a decade to a league, winning titles, building credentials, only to watch the network fly the newcomer to the most iconic studios in sports media while you sit at home wondering how secure your future is. That hurts. But it is self-inflicted. If they had welcomed her, collaborated, elevated the product together, everyone would be richer. Instead, ego won. And ego is expensive. The hostility was not subtle. It was systemic. Officials swallowed whistles. Coaches threw shade. Media veterans minimized achievements. It created an environment that felt hostile rather than competitive. Corporate partners notice that. Brands hate volatility. They hate controversy that scares off consumers. They hate uncertainty. And they especially hate being associated with resentment. Caitlin Clark, by contrast, kept her head down. She played. She showed respect. She engaged fans. She represented stability. That is gold to sponsors. NBC rewarding that is not favoritism. It is validation of professionalism. It sends a message to future players. Talent alone is not enough. How you carry it matters. The era of entitlement is over. The era of value creation is here. The union can threaten disruption, but disruption only works when it controls access. That control is gone. The owners found a bypass. They built a direct connection between star and viewer. The old structure no longer applies. This is not a temporary adjustment. It is a reset. The league is no longer driven by seniority. It is driven by relevance. Those who adapt will thrive. Those who cling to old power dynamics will fade. That is the lesson being written right now. Not with speeches. Not with press releases. But with airtime. And airtime tells the truth no one wants to hear. The veterans are shouting into space now. They can march, they can complain, they can flood timelines with outrage. But they cannot slow the engine. The engine picked its driver, and it is the rookie who changed the equation. This moment will be remembered as a masterclass in misplaced pride. The veterans held the winning ticket. All they had to do was accept reality, extend a hand, and ride the wave. Instead, they shredded the ticket and dared the market to choose sides. The market answered. While they argue over scraps, Caitlin Clark keeps building leverage, visibility, and independence. This outcome was not imposed. It was earned. They lost the attention battle. They lost the trust battle. And now they have lost the revenue battle. The networks made their choice. Ownership made its choice. The audience made its choice. Power no longer lives in closed rooms or seniority lists. It lives where fans show up. The league is no longer governed by entitlement. It is driven by demand. For those who tried to stall her rise with cynicism and hostility, there is no appeal left. You cannot boycott relevance. You cannot strike against momentum. You can only adapt or disappear. Caitlin Clark did not ask to replace anyone. She simply outperformed the system built to restrain her. History does not reward gatekeepers. It rewards builders.